Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live jury Q&A of One Up Big Brother Season 3. This is it. We have been waiting over a month. I believe we are at 40 days this season, making it one of the longer ones. Going to top it off at 41. But the season's coming to a close, and we officially have our finalists in Blake and Joe. Live jury Q&A. They're about to face off in around an hour. Answering all the questions that are lingering in the jurors' minds. We will have some jurors pop up on the stream. Others cannot attend, but did leave their questions for us to read aloud to both of them. What a fun little season this has been. I will get more into detail about this tomorrow, that's for sure. I have so many thoughts, feelings, opinions as I typically do. But I'm really proud of these two right here. So congratulations to both of you for getting to this point. This has not been an easy season. None of my games are ever what I consider walks in the parks by any means. There's a lot thrown at you, a lot that's fast moving, and twists that are sometimes often hard to maneuver and trying to figure out how to approach them. But y'all did great. I'm not going to waste too much time. I want to keep this as fast-paced as possible. So I'm going to bring onto the stage both Joe and Blake. Hello, Joe.
What's up?
Not much.
Can you hear me?
Sure can.
Sweet. Let's go. I don't got a camera. My computer sucks, but I'll put a cat on screen.
Here, I'm going to change us so you're not little circles. There we go. That's much better. Love it. Love to see it. Blake, I don't know if you're speaking, but I can't hear you. No, not like that. Gaga. Wait. I hear an echo.
Oh.
Hello.
You're muted.
There you go.
There you go.
You're perfect. Okay.
All right. So I'm going.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I like the circle more because it hides my ugly background, but that's okay.
You can see my lovely little. Got my Christmas tree up. How fun is that?
I love that. Actually.
It's not even November yet.
Yeah, that's okay. Love it. Okay, so I'm going to run this through both of you real quick. So how this is going to work, you are going to get both a 5-minute opening and closing statement. I will peek you or cut you off right at 5 minutes. So if you see my face kind of pop up back on the screen, it means time's up. You got to wrap it up, kind of like the Oscars. So let's say, Blake, you do your opening speech first. You would do your closing speech first. So Joe, if you do your opening speech second, you would get the final say in the closing speech. So I want to have you two decide what you want to do. If there's a preference.
I don't care.
I'll go second.
Any preference?
Oh, all right.
Second for the opening?
Yeah, I'll go second.
Perfect. Cool. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to bring Blake back downstage. And Joe, I will give you 5 minutes to do your opening speech. Capiche?
All right, everyone's here?
Everyone's here.
Oh, boy.
That I need
right
now.
All right. Am I good? I'm going to assume yes. So, all right, first off, I just want to say I had an absolute blast playing this. I haven't done a Big Brother in a very long time, so I knew, like, coming into this game, I'd be very rusty, like, right off the bat. But my main strategy was mainly I wanted to stay under the radar. I didn't want to be a threat. I want to sort of latch myself on to bigger targets and use them as shields down the line. So super early on in the game, I ended up, in a super tight one-on-one, like with John, and that kind of blossomed, like, as he won that first HOH, at a time where I was, like, really busy. Like, I think I was, like, my brother's, I think I had that bachelor party that weekend. So I was, like, super busy. And so I latched myself to John super early on in the game. I kind of let myself sort of suss out who some of the bigger targets were going to be kind of down the line, and sort of just attach myself at the hip with them, So like people like Lachlan, people like Brandon, people like John, Blake, people who I could see as like these big social threats, people who I knew could protect me if I ever ended up on the block, people who I could, sort of trust to keep me around, even if they just viewed me as a number. I knew that, I would be protected. So super early on in the game, kind of made like a lot of different little like trio alliances, people that I wanted to stay close to. I felt super close with like Dawn and Pat, and all those people would end up kind of being like the major power players in the jury phase, and I wanted to keep all of my options open. So I didn't like, especially once we hit jury, I did not want to win like any of those early HOHs, any of those early vetoes. I wanted people to eat themselves while I flew under the radar. I kept alliances with everybody. I was never really truly a target. The only time I think that my name was ever truly brought up was on Senjay's HOH, and I was able to convince him that like I could be an ally, that I could work with him. I had other people that were pulling for me, and I knew that that was a very big aspect of my game, was just making sure that nobody ever viewed me as a target. Nobody ever wanted to take me out. So whenever I got to the jury section, I had an alliance with pretty much everybody, and the only people that I wasn't working with at the start of jury was Nicole, JD, and Ella. And I had quickly like viewed, like I wanted to work with Ella. So I quickly locked in a deal with her. Nicole was the first boot, and JD was someone who I never wanted to target. So I felt like I was in a very good position the entirety of the jury phase. I was only ever like a final nominee once. I was only ever nominated under Pat's HOH, which was he immediately took me off when he won veto so that he could, blindside John. Everything that I tried to do in this game was just about positioning and making sure that my position was stable. And I was always, always, always in a stable position. I never had to worry. I never woke up thinking that, man, I have to win this HOH tonight, or man, I have to win a veto so I don't get backdoored. I never had to worry about anything like that. And I think that's a testament to not necessarily my social game, but my, positioning in the game, where I was able to keep everybody close, even though I knew that they were all people that I kind of wanted to take out down the line. I wanted to just sort of, like I said, fly under the radar. And I think that was something that I very successfully did. I had a lot of different final two deals, especially towards the end of the game. Once we hit kind of final five, that was the only time that I had received the vote all game, was at final five. That was the only time that I felt like I was, I don't want to say in danger, because I knew that Blake and Mackenzie were going to keep me, but it was the only time that I had to sweat a little bit. And after that, I made sure to make final two deals with Blake, Mackenzie, and Dawn. I made sure that no matter what happened, that I was always that my position in the final two was set in stone, and that nothing was going to change that. And that there was always like a target in front of me. There was always, people who viewed themselves as bigger threats in front of me that I could hide behind and fly under the radar. I didn't have to make anything, didn't have to do any crazy moves, and I was able to find myself in the final two. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joe. Blake, it is your turn. Bring you back on stage.
Okay.
All right, Blake, once you begin, your 5 minutes start.
Okay. Similar to Joe, I also came into this game with a long break, and I feel like I had a lot to prove to myself. I wanted to fix my mistakes of overplaying and not putting enough value into social relationships, and I wanted to play a game that I could look back on and be proud on after not playing for so long. And I do think I managed to do that. In the first week, I went to work right away with building alliances with a lot of the house. And I made sure that I was an option for people to be included in their alliances. And I had multiple people reaching out with me right away to be included into the power structures into this game. I had John in week 1, who included me in Jensa, which was the power structure for the first half of this game. We decided what was going on for every single eviction, and I think a lot of those were group efforts, but I think my hand is in a lot of those when it comes to who was the target and who was going home. I was included in Sanjay's alliance on the side that he had with Patrick and Starla. And even though that wasn't something that I particularly had much weight in, I had the social capital to be able to get information from that and use that to keep safe on a week like week 3, Sanjay's HOH, where a lot of people were uneasy. I was never reactionary in this game. I always wanted to be proactive, and that allowed me to keep players like Mackenzie in the game and in the house week 3 when a lot of the house wanted her out. I knew that she was going to be a piece that was going to be useful for me in the end game, and I really pushed that week. I know Brandon really wanted to vote her out. I know Pat really wanted to vote her out that week over Mario, and I made a big push that Mario needed to be the one to go home because I knew that Mario leaving was way better for my game, even though it might have been better for other people's games if Mackenzie left. I really think a moment that exemplified my social ability in these early weeks is honestly my HOH win. It was not a social competition, and yet I was able to turn that music mashup competition into a social competition. I listened to that one time and I was like, this is not for me. I am going to just ask around for the answers. And I was able to win that HOH without listening to that music. And I think that that is an example. While it's not the most impressive thing necessarily overall in the grand scheme of the game, I do think it exemplifies how good of a position I was in because I was able to get these answers without really putting in much work myself into the HOH competition. I was a key part in moves against big players in this game, and I tried to do it in as sneaky of a way as possible. So my hands were as blood-free as possible. I would push that blame onto other people so I could claim tonight that I was absolutely a part of it. I absolutely pushed for things for moves to happen in this game that benefited me, even if it was other people doing it. I was down to encourage other people to get blood on their hands when it benefited my game, and I was down to get the blood on my hands when it was my turn to do so. And I think that that was beneficial because I think that like people kept me around because they knew I was willing to make moves as well. While I was very aggressive in what I did it because I wanted to play a game I could look back on and be proud of. Like I said, I didn't want to look back and have any regrets on this and say any what ifs. I wanted to fight as hard as I could at any stage in this game, and I really did. Like if I really thought I was in trouble, I was willing to lie. I was willing to push. I was willing to do anything I needed to convince people that I was what was good for their game and that the other people were what was bad, even if that wasn't true. I have some great resume things, I think, overall in this game. I was never a final nominee. I'm the only person in this game who can say that they were never on the block on eviction night, and that's because of even when I was a target, I was able to win when it needed to. I am not a comp beast. I was not amazing in these competitions, yet I locked in and I won these competitions when I needed to. When especially the veto at the final 4, the HOH at the final 5, and obviously the final HOH, these were things that I needed to win or else things could have gone wrong. I was a part of huge moves in this game, like getting out John, getting out Pat, and obviously getting out Donica. And I think that those were 3 people who I would say are the biggest threats to win this game. You guys had some of the best games, and I think that my hands are all over your evictions. And I think that that is because of the game I was able to play. I was able to really socialize and have that influence. And yeah, I didn't win by comp streaks or luck. I won because I positioned myself to always have options, and I kept I knew when to spend my social capital that I was earning. I think that was an issue I had in the past. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Blake. All right, Joe, I'm going to bring you back on stage because it is time for the jury questioning. So we have a few people here today, but we're going to go in order of first juror to the most recent juror. So that would put Nicole first. Nicole could not attend tonight, but she did leave you both with a statement as well as a question for both of you. So Nicole says, Joe, you have been called a floater who has just drifted through this competition and even missed a triple. What have you done to prove that you're more than this and you're a smart player?
All right. I think it's really unfair to bring up like missing the triple. That was one thing that like. All right, hold on. Sorry. I think it's unfair to say that. I think that was just kind of like that was out of my control completely. But I think it's a bigger thing though is that I was able to kind of miss that triple. I was there for the votes, obviously, but I was never ever in any danger. I was perfectly positioned throughout that. Like I said, the only time that I was in danger during that triple was when I was on the block at Final Five against JD, but I knew that I had Blake and I had Mackenzie in my corner to keep me there. And the floater aspect, I think that I definitely didn't sit through this game. I always had a strategic mind going into things. I never want, like I said, I did not want to win any competitions. I had positioned myself to where winning a competition and choosing a side would put a target on my back that I did not want, because I wanted to be able to keep my allies with me while keeping people in my corner to get to the end. And I never wanted to cut anybody out of that corner. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it was just a big thing to throw those comps, not win a HOH. Nominating people would put a target on my back that I didn't want. I had a hand in evictions. I never I don't think I voted incorrectly at all during the during the jury phase. Everybody that I wanted out, I was able to get out. Yeah, I'll end it there.
You're good. So Blake, Nicole says, Blake, the jury, to say the least, has been conflicted on you. On the one hand, you did play a decent game, and you were pretty good at comps. But on the other, you've been called out for not just working with a pre-made, but threatening Don to take his jury chances with it. It's also been said you never own up to things, and you keep wanting to call yourself a hero when you were very villainous. So will you own up to all your moves and gameplay for what they are, no pretense, just owning it all? And will you personally explain why you said to Don, because when he told us, it really tainted you in people's eyes and had people leaning away from voting you a bit?
Yeah, I absolutely understand how that comes off. I think my intro, answers a little bit of the owning up stuff. I definitely wasn't worth for me owning up to being a villain in the game when I would then get voted out for being a villain in the game. Like, duh. At least to me. I don't know. Maybe you guys would have kept me around. Who knows? But yeah, I absolutely was stabbing people in the back and doing things, but I'm not going to tell the people in the game that, hey, I'm going to stab you in the back. And this is going to be really fun. I decided to do that now. I decided to say that I'm now the person who was going to lie and cheat. Not cheat, but you know what I mean. But when it comes to the Don thing, I talked to Don about this in the house, and I apologized to him. I definitely came off very aggressive in that conversation. It was right after the triple eviction when I had talked to him about that. And I was really trying to push the idea that I was the person to bring to the final two, which was what the basis of the argument was. I tried saying that I think that if you bring Joe to the end, which is what I assumed in my head was his most likely path, if you bring Joe to the end, I tried to use the idea that John had blocked him. I was like, John isn't going to vote for you. John might vote John isn't going to vote for us because he blocked us. He's going to vote for John, or Joe. And I tried to use the fact that, I'm going to be on the jury if he votes me out, and say I'll vote for Joe. I think Mackenzie will vote for Joe. I think Lachlan will vote for Joe. And I was really trying to push this idea that he will lose against Joe in the end if he takes Joe, because I didn't want him to take Joe. So, and I absolutely realized how kind of intense I got in that conversation. And I definitely apologized to Don after, that night. I was like, I apologize. I definitely see how that was very aggressive. And I stand by that. I agree. I do think it was very aggressive. but it was game. It wasn't like personal. I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm not going to. I would have voted for Don if I was voted out of this game. I just was trying to make him think that I wouldn't, so he wouldn't evict me.
All right. Thank you, Blake. I have 2 more questions from Nicole, but we are running short on time with her time slot, but I am going to do at least one of them. So keep your answers just pretty short and sweet. She also says, for both of you, what would you say was your strategy going into the season and how did it evolve? I love this question. I usually like to ask all my house guests this preseason, but I want to hear from both of you. How did your strategies evolve throughout the season?
You want me to go first?
Sure.
So obviously, like I said earlier, my strategy coming in was to just fly under the radar and position myself between big shields, big threats, people that I could stab in the back when I needed to, and, you know, kind of carve my way to the end. And I think that kind of just evolved by just who I was using as a shield, you know, from, like I said, day one, I had come in and made a quick relationship with John, and that helped me, you know, stay protected throughout the early game. And then once we got to the jury phase and people started looking at John and they said, John needs to go, you know, I was like, okay, well, you know, I hid behind Brandon, and then Brandon was next. And I was like, okay. And then, you know, next was, you know, to Lachlan, to Dawn, you know, people viewed kind of, as we got into the game, people were like, well, you know, Joe and Dawn are a duo. And then, you know, who was targeted from that? Dawn was the next out at final 3. And then it was, you know, me and Blake. Like, I always kind of just shifted who I was hiding behind to try and like further myself, to keep myself not as a target to get to the end.
All right. Blake, same question to you.
Coming into the game, I didn't have very high expectations for myself, shockingly enough. So I just wanted to come out and have like a game I was proud of. I wanted to be aware of, again, social capital. That was usually my biggest flaw in the past, was spending social capital way too early. And I think I, throughout the game, was able to keep true to that. I do think I managed my social capital pretty well up until the final 4. But I think that evolved in a way that, like, I think I got more confident as the game went on. I think I was able to really see what good of a position I was in. I think I was able to play on that. And I took more of a leader position. I didn't expect coming in to play from the front. That's not really my kind of strategy. And I don't think I played from the front to you guys, but behind the scenes, I was definitely playing from the front. And I think that is something that I didn't expect to do coming in.
All right. Thank you. Up next, we have John, who also could not attend tonight, unfortunately. Once again, left you both with a question. Blake, going right back to you. John says, you think you're a hero, but the jury mostly saw you as a villainous, self-interested player. So with that being said, please name 3 moves you in the moment claim to be apologetic and sorry for, but ultimately helped you get to the end that you actually don't feel sorry for at all.
I will say I don't regret any of the moves. I am an emotional person. I do think that maybe the idea of me being a hero comes off by the fact that I do feel bad when I'm making these moves. That's not fake. I absolutely feel bad when that's happening, but I wouldn't change what I did. I would absolutely always have evicted you, John, when I felt bad. I would have always, okay. We'll get into maybe the Pat thing later. I don't know if Pat's here, but I wouldn't have evicted Pat at the time, but I would have evicted Pat no issues to get to the end. I felt bad, obviously, doing it when it happened. I felt bad for Dawn. I felt like there's these things I feel bad for. I feel bad for Ella when I'm voting Ella out. I feel bad for Brandon when I'm voting Brandon out. I really got to know all of you. And I think in the final 10, it wasn't a coincidence that the final 10 was a lot of people who I really had gotten along with. And so I had gotten to the end with all these people who I have gotten along with, and now I have to vote them out one by one. And it's like, it does suck, even though I'm going to do it because I want to win. Like, I played a villainous game and I own up to playing a villainous game. I never claimed to be a hero. I just claimed to feel bad at times, which I did.
Okay. For you, Joe, from John, he asks, name 3 intentional things you did this season to get you to the final 2.
So I would say one of the big things was at Final Four, I had made sure that no matter what, that my position was secure. So intentional, I went to everybody that was there. I went to Blake, I went to Mackenzie, and I went to Don. And I told all of them, I gave all of them a pitch as to why, like, you should be my final two. And I played up my own sort of like, I wanted everybody to think that I was just a GOAT, that I had done nothing in the game, that I was just, the person that they could drag to the end for an easy beat. And in my head, I don't truly believe that. I don't truly believe that that I was the easiest beat. So for me, I've tried to play that up. I wanted everybody to think that I was just kind of like the person that they could just take to the end. I'll be the GOAT. You can beat me 9-0 and I won't be mad. That's what I wanted everyone to think. I think that was a very intentional sort of downplaying of my own game. I would also say just a different sort of trio alliances that I had made sort of early on in the game. And they weren't necessarily secret. I think a lot of people kind of knew about them, but that was not something that I really cared about. I more so cared of the people that I was just working with, and that they knew that I had wanted to work with them. So I had, the big ones were like John and Brandon, which was critical for me early on in the game because I knew that people were looking at me sort of as not necessarily a target early on, but I was somebody that people didn't feel necessarily as close to. And I knew that John and Brandon were both two people with a lot of social capital, and they were able to, alongside myself, like especially with the Senjay thing, I had my own pitch to Senjay, but I also had Brandon and John in my corner to make sure that I wasn't his renom that week or anything else like that. And I also had different ones, Blake and Mackenzie. That was one that I had stayed loyal to till the end of the game. That was an important trio alliance that I had made early on that got to the end. And, also like Pat and Don, that was another one that I had. I always really liked both of them. I had worked closely with them, and that trio had also kind of kept me safe. And I think like a third sort of like intentional sort of move that I made was just also super like kind of once we had gone to the jury phase, I tried to focus more on the one-on-ones, instead of like the group alliances, the big alliances. I wanted these one-on-one relationships. I had the one-on-one with Don, a one-on-one alliance with Blake, all these other people that again kept me safe whenever people were starting to eat each other alive in the jury round. I was able to never really be like just a chess piece. People always looked at me that, I could use Joe as a vote. I can take him further. And that's exactly how I wanted them to see me. I wanted to be someone that people didn't want to take out. And I wanted to be the person that people brought to the end and underestimated.
Me smoking. Okay.
Joe, I'm not laughing at you. I just
Me smoking. Okay.
All right, keep it professional.
All right. I did it off stream so you could still post this, get some money.
No, it's not going to happen regardless, but that's fine. Thank you, Joe. Up next would be Brandon. Brandon said they would be here in the stream, but they are not. And didn't leave any questions that I could read. So if they do show up at some point, then we'll just kind of pivot back to Brandon. Completely fine. Up next, though, we do have Ella. Ella kept it short and sweet. Only one question, and it's for you, Joe. So Ella just wants to know, Joe, what was your strategy this season?
I feel like I've kind of talked about this a lot. Like I said, I think, I not to just keep saying the same thing, but I didn't want people to see me as a threat. Like I said, I came in knowing that I didn't want to win competitions. I wanted people to see me as, again, someone that they could drag to the end. I wanted to be the quote unquote GOAT, but I wanted to be the under the radar threat that people just didn't really see coming. And that, like I said before, that just kind of all I cared about was my positioning, like where I was, who I was with, who was gonna like work with me. It was always positioning and hiding behind bigger and bigger threats.
Thinking about how I could have just turned off my camera. That's what I'm laughing about now.
How you do it. Okay. Thank you, Joe. I believe Brandon's going to be joining the call here in a moment. But while we wait for Brandon, we do have Pat, who is patiently waiting backstage, ready to ask his questions.
I'm ready to get into this, Pat, if you want to.
Well, let's bring him in. Welcome, Pat.
Hi, I'll get on video.
All right.
Can you hear me?
I'll get off camera.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay, so I'll do the short question first. Sorry, Blake, I'll go for Joe first. Joe, my one question for you is, if you were ever to win an HOH, when would you have done it and what would you have done?
All right, so definitely, if I were ever to win, and this is kind of what sucks the most about that second triple eviction. I do really wish I was there for that, because if there's any time for me to win an HOH, I would have wanted to be then. Either like Final 7, Final 6, or Final 5, because I think that was the most pivotal point in the game. I think there were a lot of still like big threats that were around. I think for me, if it was Final 7, I think it would have been Lachlan and Donica would have been my two targets. If it was, Final 6, I would have probably put up Pat and Dawn or Blake, one of the three of you, people who I saw as the bigger threats, people that I would have wanted out before the end. If I had won a Final 5, I probably would have I might have put up Blake and Mackenzie, even though I was working with them. I wanted to keep JD safe. So for me, like kind of sit next to the block with him was a little devastating, but I kind of didn't, there wasn't anything I could do at that point, which really sucked. And that's definitely a regret for me.
Okay, so hi, Blake.
Hi, I'm so scared. This has been the one I've been so scared of.
I was like, of course, I'm the first one that like talks in person. So I've been kind of taking notes as you've been talking, if I'm honest. So I'm just going to go in order of things you said in your opening speech. You said you focused on your social game, but in my opinion, your jury management could be better.
Yeah.
So could you elaborate on that for like just
I think in the game I was everyone's friend. I think that's probably why a lot of you guys feel worse about me, is because I made you guys feel so good in the game. I think that I was definitely spending a lot of my time in the game managing relationships, and I think for at least the first half up until the final 10, I don't think I was ever really a consideration for nomination for anyone because of my social game. And I think that is what I was talking about. I definitely think that I could have definitely done a better job at managing the jury. Clearly, I just I absolutely have regrets about moves I did, and I would love to get into that with you. Hopefully you have more comments, obviously, but
there's a paragraph, not a paragraph, but if you
yeah, so that's what I think that when I talk about social game and focusing on social, I do think I did. I think I did succeed on playing a great social game in the game. I think that may be reflected poorly on the jury because I also was willing to play a very backstabby game.
Okay. You said you got blood on your hands, and I just want to know what you think you specifically did when you got the so-called blood on your hands.
I think that I think what I mean by that is, even though I wasn't publicly getting blood on my hands from your guys' perspective, behind the scenes, I was the one who was really driving a lot of these moves. So I think
that blood on your hands, technically, I mean, you're kind of just like in the back seat. But like, if you're not getting the
blood on my hands, but I'm the one making all the plans.
If you're not getting the blame for it, there's no blood on your hands. That's if you like the visual blame. You know what I mean? That's
sure,
how I take the term.
I think maybe the genius part of what I was doing, like that's what the thought process behind my head was. I don't want to have the perception of the fact that I'm doing all this when I am the one who's making all these plans. Like and
that's the opposite of blood on your hands. That's the only point that I was
sorry.
that's fine.
I apologize. I was more so meaning that I was, because sometimes I am more of a reactive player. I think in the past when I was playing, I would wait for other people to kind of make moves and then make my moves around that. Whereas this time, I was the one who was definitely making my moves. This time, I was the one who was prepping other people to do things. I was pushing the dominoes.
Right.
Whereas
And something
before, I was
sorry.
trying to, when I would play before, I think I was trying to like jump out of the set before my domino fell over.
Mhm. Something I will say is I think you and I play a lot more similarly than I thought we did before this season. And you were better than me in being proactive in your moves because I am also have the same issue. My main issue with you is why didn't you tell me I was leaving?
So to be honest with you, that night it was so chaotic. It was going to be Dawn, then it was going to be you, then it was going to be Dawn, then it was going to be you. And I told you that you were safe when it was going to be Dawn. I did vote to evict Dawn because when I realized it flipped back to you, and I was fine with it flipping back to you. I realized at that point I was like, oh, I fucked up. I fucked up really bad.
But like, who flipped it back to me?
I would say that I would say it would be me. I would say that I really
Okay.
pushed.
So
But like,
you
that's what I'm
just
saying.
made
It
it
was
seem
very
like it
complicated.
wasn't
Like, I don't know
your.
how to. This is where I was like, very excited to talk to you about it because it was so like. This is where I think people I don't really understand my emotional aspect and where I am a little bit cracked. You guys forget is
Oh, I know.
I really do flip back and forth in my head a lot. Like I knew one of you guys had to go. I knew it was a shot, and I think I fucked up by picking you over Dawn. But in my head, you were going to win some of these more driven competitions, which is what I was more worried about. I felt like I could maybe beat Dawn in a quiz. I didn't think I could beat you in anything like endurance. And so that's where my mindset was in that vote and why I pushed. I said, I think Pat might be a bigger threat. That's what my final push was. Had Donica left, I would have been fine with it. And clearly, I think looking back, that probably would have been the better move, which is where I think my one mistake in the game is I think, not because I don't think I wanted you out. I absolutely wanted you out. I did not want you in that in those final chairs. I think we could have gotten you out at 6 or 5, though. I don't think we needed to take you out at 7.
That's how I felt about the situation also. You would have had my undying trust, honestly, if I'd been safe that week. Like, you were like kind of like my person.
I know. I
Especially
realized that
especially
after
if Dom was gone. He was like the person you were competing with for like person I liked the most. But that's the most frustrating part about it for me because I feel like I understand you like to take the back seat in games, and I'm just going to tell you things I've said about you in the jury house. One, I said I feel like I've said loser gameplay only because I feel like you're so in the back seat sometimes that it's like, and there's other times
I don't
when
think I was
feel
like
like
that this time.
but I feel like it's the easy way out sometimes, like not telling me that I'm going home when you know I'm going home and things like that.
Yes.
That's
I absolutely agree. I think that I could have been
Okay.
better with telling you that you were going home that time. I think with everyone else, I was pretty direct that when I was voting them. I think with John, one thing John might have a little bit of issue with is I told him I would think about what was happening. Had more people come to me and say, I really want to keep John, I probably would have considered it more. But guys, he was a lost cause before, whether it was me or not. Like, I really don't know. So
Yeah.
like, he was gone. Me considering, I was really trying to be polite because I would have liked that same grace back. I would have liked someone to hear me out. If I was backdoored, I would want someone to hear me out. I would want someone to consider. And that's what I think, again, a lot of people are misunderstanding my villainy as claiming to be a hero. I don't claim to be a hero. I would feel bad if I were you guys in this and I was doing this. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I have empathy for the fact that I'm doing this to you guys. I would hate if you did it to me.
Mm-hmm. But it's okay.
So sorry, I yapped.
No, you're good. I liked it.
Okay.
All right, but no, time is up. But thank you very much, Pat.
You're welcome.
Shut up, Blake.
Shut up, Blake.
Wait, Gaggett. I removed myself, not Pat. Bye, Pat. I was going to bring Brandon back to the stage. They were here, and now they are gone again. Wait, I spoke too soon. They're back. All right,
Brandon,
we are welcoming to the stage Brandon.
Brandog.
Oh my God, hi. Okay, I have just 2 questions. So, my first one is going to be for Blake. If you could describe your overall game in just one word, what would it be and why?
Oh. Ugh, I would say adaptable. I think that I was able to really see where things were going this season and be proactive on that. I mean, I guess proactive could be a different word, but like I feel like I was able to really adapt to what I was seeing and act on that going forward. I think an example of that would be like learning Patrick was coming after me, or not coming after me, but like was wary of me. And when I knew I wasn't going to be taking the shot at Patrick that week, I decided to adapt and really focus my HOH week on making Patrick feel good. And I think that I did succeed in that, for example. So I think I was just very adaptable in a lot of different situations.
Okay, so what do you have to say to a lot of people thinking that you play like a snake game?
I would agree.
Okay, clock. Okay, so Joe, my question for you is, throughout the game, you made several Final Two deals with different people, and then you claimed that your main allegiance was with me, you, and John. But when things got rough, it seemed like you bailed. So I have to ask, who are you actually loyal to in this game?
So I think a lot of it changed. So throughout the game, I had known pretty early on that like you and John were not people who I wanted to go to the final 3 with. That I'll be like, I can be honest and upfront.
Oh my God.
But in the early section, like in that pre-jury phase of the game, I was 100% loyal. And I will say that I thought that the shot was a little too early. I didn't think final, like 8 and 9 or whatever was the perfect time to go for the 2 of you. I think that, but there was nothing that I could have done. There was no saving that ship. The ship was sinking, and I bailed. That is true. I was not going to go down on a sinking ship. John was evicted unanimously. You were evicted unanimously. As much as I would have loved to stay in the game longer with the 2 of you, there was no reason for me to go down with that ship. So I quickly hopped off. I think that the other deals that I had, I think they were critical to like the game that I played and were critical to getting me to this point. If I had stayed and fought for John to stay, you were the next target because you fought hard for John to stay. If I was right there with you, instead of Ella going at 7, it would have been me. And that was I wanted to completely avoid that.
Okay. So,
or sorry, I think she went at 8. Sorry.
Oh. Why do you think you deserve to win over the person next to you?
I think that I deserve to win because I had a lot of, I would say, like intentionality with my positioning, with the way that I played. I didn't need competition wins to keep myself in the game. Blake needed those wins at Final Four. If Mackenzie, like, I don't know, I can't speak for what Mackenzie would have done, but I know that at Final Four, if I had one veto or if I was given that free spot to if Don won and he gave me that, like the veto, I would have heavily considered taking Blake out. If I had won HOH at Final 3, I would have heavily considered taking out Blake. I did not need competition wins to get where I am. I was able to get where I am through my position in the game, through the deals that I had made, and with the different alliances that I had. Not through competition wins, not through like lying, not through backstabbing, not through any of that. I didn't need to get blood on my hands. I was able to get where I am, like I said, just through my positioning.
Okay. My last question is for Blake. So during my HOH, when you told almost the entire like alliance that you didn't want to win, I think, but then you came to me when after I won, and because you assumed that I wasn't going to backdoor Quincy, and you told me that you would have taken it if you knew I wasn't going to take the shot. But I kind of like it kind of irked me a little bit in the moment because I knew you weren't going to take it. So I just want to know like what
I
like
absolutely
why.
would take it. So when I said that, I don't know if it was maybe lost in translation at some point, but I was under the impression that you wanted the veto discarded, and my comment came from, if you really didn't want to make this move, I would have taken it. Like it wasn't meant to be disrespectful. It was, I didn't want the HOH initially because I had already taken a shot. I felt like you should win one and take a shot to kind of even out the Jensa's, like the wins across Jensa. And when you were going to keep the who were the noms that week? It was Nicole and
It was Nicole and JD, I think.
JD. I was like, that is such a waste of a week. I do not want that happening. So I was, again, as I've said multiple, I was willing to push as hard as I could that week to get Quincy up and out. I was also concerned that week, and I don't know how, again, if it was lost in translation, but you were very heavily considering backdooring Donica that week, and I was very much against that, and I pushed very hard for Quincy to be the move instead.
Okay, so when it comes to Donica that week, it wasn't that I was like gonna backdoor him. It was just that how he was acting that entire week was making it very, very hard for me to want to keep him.
Yeah.
And it's like that's why I ended up confronting him like to his face to like get it.
I think it would have been a very smart move for you to not take the shot. I think that I recognized that you had gotten in good with Quincy and Alana again, and I was concerned that you were going to take the easy move and just have Nicole or JD go, and I wanted the move to be Quincy or Alana, so I pushed very hard for that, and I made the comment saying I would have taken the shot because I wanted them gone.
Okay. All right, well, that's all my questions.
All right. Thank you very much, Brandon.
Of course.
Thank you.
All right. Up next, we have the man, the myth, the legend. No pun intended there. Lachlan is not here. Clearly, I mean, it's late for him, so give him his sleep. But he did leave some questions for the both of you. Blake, get your question out first. Lachlan says, "Hi, Blake. Should I do it in a British accent? We played the game very close, connected, and shared a lot of the same moves." That's not British. Anyways, okay. Hi, Blake. We played the game very closely, connected, and shared a lot of the same moves. But how would you differentiate your game from mine? / what do you think you did separate to me?
Well, I think that our games were very intertwined because a lot of the things that we did were obviously beneficial to each other as allies. However, I think that our games were different because you were not willing to be social with these people as much as I was. I was willing to put in the legwork to have the capital for us to make moves in this game. And without the work that I would put in, I don't think we would be able to have power. So Lachlan did win a lot of these competitions, but I don't want to say that I was the brains behind it, but I was the brains behind it. I think that I would formulate thoughts and they made sense to Lachlan, so Lachlan went along with them. So I was always, we were different in the sense that I was more of like the computer chip, and he was like the outside of the computer. Like, I think that he was what was seen maybe as the one making moves, but I think I was really the one behind the scenes doing it. And I think in terms of things that we were doing separately, I think that I had completely separate side alliances and things that had things gone south with Locky, and that wasn't an option. I would have been fine jumping ship over to someone like Sanjay and Patrick and Starla in those early weeks, or John in the midweeks, or any, like, I had options where had things been different, I would have had these other relationships. And Lachlan can't say the same, I don't think.
Thank you. And then Joe, Lachlan asks of you, what was your best move in the game that you made to benefit you and not your allies?
I'll say, I think my best like move to benefit me specifically. I don't want to keep saying like Final Four, Final Three, but like I said, I think that the best move that I made was making those deals at Final Four, going to everybody saying, I'm the biggest GOAT. I'm the easiest beat. You're going to crush me in the end. You're going to win 9-0 if you sit next to me. So going around to every single person and telling them that and saying, or to Mackenzie, I said, like, this would be the ideal Final Two because it's going to make everybody else angry. Or like saying to Blake, like, we've worked this whole game together. There's no, like, I promise that I'm going to take you to the Final Two if I win. Going to Donica saying, I'm the easiest beat. You can beat me 9-0 and I won't even be mad about it. That was the biggest thing for me. And clearly it worked. It got me here. It's why I'm sitting in these chairs. I think that was the best move that I had made.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Up next, we have the fishiest of catfishes. But though he did have a voice reveal yesterday. So you know what? The jury's out. We got JD. He has a statement as well as a question for both of you. So I will go ahead and read that now. JD says, to say I'm disappointed would be such an understatement. I wish I could say congrats. You guys, sorry.
Sorry.
I wish I could say congrats, you guys. I wish I could say congrats, you guys. Player, a great game. Sorry,
Stop it, please.
Oh, what? I'm just reading verbatim.
Just read it properly.
I can try and do my best. Okay, but that would be fake, and I'm not fake. I was so close. Who said that? I was so close to just walking from the jury when I knew I had to vote for one of you two to win. But well, what it is.
I'm so glad one of them ripped into us. I was like, wait, this is a little bit nicer than I expected. Fuck, there you go.
I was waiting for
JD,
it.
I will say, once JD hit that jury, I can't. What the fuck? Okay, sorry. There goes my monetization. Okay. I was gonna walk from the jury when I had to vote one of you two to win, but well, it is what it is. We have to do it, I guess. My questions are going to be based on how hard I think you both played. With that being said, Blake, how would you describe the game you played this season?
Again, but describing it in a few words is very difficult because I would say manic is an understatement for how I felt internally. But I think my game actually had a lot of order. I think that I was, again, very adaptable, proactive. I was making moves before people could make moves on me, and I was trying to plan out this game from beginning to end from week one. And I think near my plan from the start kind of happened. There's a few people, obviously, that mixed in further, but I was able to be adaptable. And people like you, JD, who you can't hear me right now, but you were begging to work with me and take me to Final Three when I wanted you out on my HOH. Like I did not have any connection. You were the person who I had least connection with, and you were still begging to bring me to Final Three. So like that's how that is what I will say about my game.
Okay. Joe, JD asks, which game did you attend?
Wait. Okay, wait, hold on. Can you repeat that? Sorry, I had to take my mic off for a second.
So he says, which game did you attend when the second triple eviction took place? Which either is going to be, I'm assuming it's in reference to like what challenge, but it could also be like what sports game you were at.
I was at a sports game. Is that what he's asking?
That's why I'm like, I'm trying to interpret it as like, what challenges were you there and attended during the triple?
I'll just answer both. None of them. That was I was completely unable to do anything. I made that clear. I was not going to be able to be there. I was at the Florida Panthers versus Pittsburgh Penguins NHL game. I watched Florida demolish my hometown team. No, sorry. No, other way around. I watched my hometown team demolish Florida Panthers. Anyway, that's where I was. I was not able to do anything. There was Just nothing I could have done.
I would have been playing in those seats. I'm just kidding.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you. Not as important.
thank you, JD. Up next, we have Mackenzie.
Oh my
welcome,
gosh,
Diva.
she's here.
Oh, she's here.
He's here. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Becky.
Hi, Divas.
Hi, dude.
Hi. Congrats. I have 2 questions, and I'm asking questions of both of you. Also, I sound like a cigarette smoker. Ignore that. My first question is, what is one moment you thought might have cost yourself the entire game, and how did you come back from it? And I don't care who goes first.
You can go, Blake.
I would say I think evicting Pat instead of Donica at the final 7 was a huge mistake. I think, as I said, I thought that Pat was more aware of my positioning in the game and what I was doing behind the scenes, and I thought that he was going to come after me the same way Donica did. So I thought it was kind of, 6 one, half dozen the other. But I was able to come back from that, obviously, by winning my way out in the end. I won that final 4 veto. I won that final HOH. And as someone who wasn't like extremely competitive in all these competitions, I think that I was able to lock in and do that when I needed to most. And that is what was important. I do think there's something to note, though. Joe didn't say he would evict me at Final 4. Joe did say he was going to keep me at Final 4. And while he would have heavily considered it, he did not say he would have done it for sure. So there you go. So I do think, I think I got out of it by winning competitions, but I think the only competition I needed to win was the final 3 HOH.
Am I good? Okay. All right. So I'll say that I would say my biggest mistake in the game was just kind of not being able to be there for pretty critical times. Like early on in the game, I always kind of had something that was going on outside. I had my brother's wedding, my brother's bachelor party. I was on vacation for the last week. Those were all things that kind of kept me away from being able to really sort of talk to people, to really be able to kind of build that social capital that I'm used to having. But I think I overcame that by just, I hate to use the word again, but just how I was able to position myself. Even though I wasn't personally very close with people, I was still able to get into different alliances. I was still able to work very closely with people. I worked very closely with people like John and Blake and Lachlan, even though I wasn't talking to them constantly, or I wasn't, proving my worth by showing up in challenges and winning these HOHs to keep my allies safe. People still viewed me as someone that they could work with, still was viewed as an asset. That has carried me to, like I said, it's carried me to the final 2. So I'll say that's my answer.
Okay, thank you guys. My next question is, okay. My next question is, what is a decision that most people wouldn't agree with? A question or a decision that we'd probably look at and be like, what the fuck were they thinking? That you defend even now. So what's something that you stand by that might not have looked right to the average viewer or whatever?
Oh gosh, that's hard. I feel like in general, I think the way that I was begging and pleading, it was all very game. I wasn't ever trying to come off in a way that was disrespectful to anybody. And I think maybe sometimes I did cross a line in terms of that. And I apologize for how intense I got, especially with Donica at times. I definitely was very intense. I think maybe my intensity for the game came across the wrong way sometimes. And I genuinely just want it to come across I care a lot. I really put in so much effort into this because I really want to win. And it was not personal to any of you guys. When I was feeling bad, it wasn't because I was trying to play hero. It was because I genuinely did feel bad for voting some of you guys out.
I'll say like probably the biggest question mark that I could see people drawing from my game is the fact that I did, sort of very like intentionally throw the competitions that I was able to like be there for. I think a very common conception of like the game of Big Brother is, you need to have HOH wins and you need to have veto wins in order to have a resume. But for me, I didn't want those. I very, very much wanted to avoid having the power. I didn't want to be in power. That was something that like I had made very clear from the start that I like as part of my strategy is I did not want the power. And I think that's like a thing that people can see as like a question mark. Like you don't have people view that as like a weakness of like, you don't have any of those competition wins. But to me, that was very intentional and very much like something that I had wanted. So yeah, so that's my answer.
Thank you, guys.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you, Mackenzie. Move you back down stage. Okay. And last but not least, we have the man of the hour, Donica.
Oh my god, he's
Pronounce-
here.
He sure is.
Hey, hello.
Hey, I thought you'd be even bad.
No, the clocks went back, so it's only half midnight here, so it's not too late.
Oh,
Yeah, anyway, so I do wish you both luck, and my questions are a bit poignant, so I think I'll just get to it. Blake, throughout this game, you have called me a cunt, told me to fuck off when I did not do your bidding, and threatened to poison your allies' jury votes if I did not take you to the final two. Although you have apologized, you have claimed a strong social game tonight. So why should I give you my vote when there is this poor social gameplay with me?
absolutely. I definitely apologize with how I've spoken to you. I stand by that. I know you've said I apologize, but I would like to reiterate I do apologize. I guess to clarify some of the things that you said, I'm not sure if you were here for the earlier conversation, but I would have absolutely voted for you had I been voted out. My pitch about poisoning my allies in the jury was more so a pitch for you to try to bring me to the end. I was trying to say that against Joe, that you would maybe lose. And I was trying to use the fact that John had blocked you. I was trying to use the fact that John and them were voting for each other in the poll. I was trying to use literally anything I could scratch and claw onto to rationalize why you should bring me to this final two, because I really want to be here. And I absolutely took that too far. And I apologize. And we keep talking in circles about that. But I think my social game was strong because even we had beef as of week like 4 when you had come to and told me that I was like shady for pushing you for the HOH. And I think that despite me being very upfront and vocal with you in this way, I think I was able to manage my relationship with you at least up until the final 7. And I think that was something that does take a good social game. I don't think John was able to manage that the way I was. And I did behave in, ways that were negative towards you, just like John did, but you felt better about it with me than you did with John. And I think that's a testament to my social game. I think you should vote for me to win because I think I really put in the effort to be here. I think that you did too. I would, not to disrespect to Joe, because I know I absolutely believed that Joe was putting thought into this, but I really woke up every single day and was thinking about this game and really pushing for this game. And I really wanted to win this game because it has been so long since I have played. And I think I have played a good enough game to deserve the vote.
Thank you. Okay, Joe, you talk about deals, but we actually never finalized or made an official final 2 deal. If anything, you trying to turn me and Blake against each other with the Knight's move veto at final 4 made me not want to bring you. Do you recognize your game had weaker moments, and would you be happy to win knowing it was more of an anti-Blake vote than a pro-Joe vote?
In my eyes, a win is a win. It doesn't matter why I got the votes. All that matters is that the votes were given to me. It doesn't, if people hate Blake so much, that's a testament to his game and the weaknesses of his game. And if people hate him more than they hate me, then that's a testament to my game. That's how I feel about that part of the question. For me, I think that turning the two of you against each other, I don't really think that was something that I needed to do. You had made it clear to me that Blake was who you wanted out. And before I'd even talked to Blake about that HOH, he had made it clear to me that he didn't want you, like that he wanted you out. That was like all I did. I stayed in the middle of that. And if that made you want to come after me, then that's like I can see that. But I think that it was clear that the two of you were already gunning for each other. I put myself in the middle of it to try and guarantee my spot in the final two. You and I, you are right. We never 100% finalized a deal. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't have come to you and fought for that spot if you had won final three or if you had won the final four veto. I did believe at the time that no matter what, that you would have given me that power. And I did tell Blake that I would have kept him. And I do think that is something that I would have done. I think that securing my spot in the final two was more important than trying to drag Mackenzie to the end. So I do think that was always going to be my play. But like I said, I think a win is a win. I don't agree with like you saying that it's an anti-Blake and not a pro-Joe move. That's what I'll say.
All right. Great answers from both of you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Donica. All right. It is time for your final statements. To both of you, this is now your final moment to tell the jurors anything that you might have missed, to own up to your games. This is your final 5 minutes in this game that will decide whether you are going to win or lose and become the third winner of One Up Big Brother. As we mentioned before, since Joe, you went first in the opening statements. Wait, let me do the math. Right? Who's going first?
I think I went first, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So do I go first again?
No, you'll close it out.
Okay.
Okay. So, Blake, the stage is yours.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to start off by saying clearly you guys thought that I was playing claiming to play some sort of heroic game. That was absolutely not my intention coming into this. I knew that I was going to have to backstab people, and I own up to the fact that I did it to many of you. I think that I played this game with my whole heart from the first day when we walked in to the end. There was at no point I was not thinking about options and different routes that I could take and different scenarios that might happen. And I think that kept me on my toes and kept me able to be ahead of other people in this game. There was always things that I was on top of. The nightmare powers were things that were on top of that I have not been able to talk about in this final jury speech. I set up the first week for Mackenzie to lie about her powers to everyone so that Lachlan could get the first nightmare power. It was 2 idols that I never had to use. They were always going to be reserved for me and Lachlan, and I never had to use one because I knew that using them was going to cause more havoc than for keeping them away. And that was because I put myself in a position where I always knew what was happening. There was not one nightmare power actually that we didn't know about before it happened, other than Quincy's, I guess. From the information from John, we knew Patrick's. From the information from Jen, so we were able to get Lachlan the second one. we were always able to stay on top of things because of an active role that I played in this game. I was an active player at all times, and I made sure that I was always playing this game. I was not ever going to be sitting back and relaxing. I was a big part of the John play. I think that if without me influencing those votes that week, I do not think that John would be evicted. I think that I timed everything with people going out, with Brandon going out. Brandon was someone who was able to recognize that I was a threat in this game, and I think Brandon needed to go because of that. Brandon was the only one who was smart enough to try to keep John that week, because it was way too early for everyone in the game to go after John except for me, because John was coming for me. He wasn't coming for any of you guys. He was coming for me. And I made the move to make it benefit for me. Any single time anybody in this game mentioned that I was a threat, I made sure that they were one of the next few to go. Starla, Patrick, John, Brandon, everybody who mentioned me was out the door soon after. And I think that plays a testament to my role I was playing, because I didn't even have to win the HOHs to do it. I am very proud of the game I played, and I hope that you guys can see that, and I hope that it can award me that, because I really want to win this. It would mean like a lot. Like, I have put so much in. I would be very crushed if I lost. I could use the money. We're not going to pitch all that, but whatever. Please vote for me because you respect my game. That's what I would like. I would like you guys to please respect my game. I absolutely played a villain, but that I played the villain that would get me here, because that's the game that I enjoy playing, that I have fun playing. I'm a big Nicole Frenzel fan. I would obviously play a rat floater game, duh. So yeah, although I don't think I floated. I think it was more just like a ratty game, just period. I don't really have much to say else. I feel like I really addressed everything in the questions. Yeah, I think I'm good.
All right. Thank you very much, Blake. Send you backstage. And Joe, you are up.
All right. So I kind of want to address something. During Blake's closing speech, he said that he, woke up every game or every single day and put his heart and soul into this game. And for me, I did. Like, there was never a time where I wasn't trying to play this game. I'd always, come in. I wanted to put 100% into everything. Obviously, there were times where I couldn't have, and while I do regret those, I don't think that it's something that I think it's unfair to use that against me. But the time in this game when I was in the most danger of going home was early on, and I was able to recognize that. I knew that like people were looking at me as a target, and so I locked in, and that's whenever I really started to lock in these little alliances, these side alliances, knowing people who I wanted to work with, and realizing and noticing the people who didn't want to work with me. I locked in super early that John and Brandon alliance. I was able to, sort of get close with Lachlan. I got close with Donica. I was able to, get close with Blake and Mackenzie. And when I knew, like, I could tell that whenever Alana started kind of throwing my name out there, saying that I was in this made up alliance, I immediately, once I found that out, I went to Don with that information, and I just fed him everything that I knew. And just like, by all hope, he won that next HOH. It was those people that he targeted. It was Alana, it was Quincy, it was Starla. Those were his targets. And I'm not saying that was because of me, but I'm saying that it was that because I had gone to Dawn, I knew that I wasn't going to be that target. I locked in those early side alliances to the point where when I got to Survivor, once I got to the jury phase, I knew that I was just so locked in with everybody. I had all these alliances. I didn't have to stress. I never woke up stressed. I never woke up thinking I might go on the block today. If I don't win HOH, I might go home. That was never, ever a thought that crossed my mind. I knew that because of where I was positioned, because of the alliances in those bonds that I had, that those would carry me to the end. And I didn't have to fight for my place. You know, I had to fight early on, and I did fight, and I successfully fought. I won. I got to where I was, and I was able to ride that to the end. I had a line. There was a point in the game where I think I was aligned with everybody except for JD. I had so many side deals. That is like why I am where I am. Not because of competition wins, not because of backstabbing, not because I lied to everybody. I rode the alliances that I had. I let the bigger targets go after each other, and I skated by. I flew under the radar, and I let everybody kill each other while I was able to just ride to the end. I think that's all I have to say. I appreciate all the questions. Any way that this goes, I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Blake.
Thank you, Joe. All right. My finalists. This is the end point of this game. All that stands now is the jury deciding who they wish to vote for and they will award the $150 grand prize, as well as the title of One Up Big Brother Season 3. Good job to both of you tonight and all of the questions. And once again, what a great season for both of you. Again, it is no understatement that you've gotten to this place. No matter the means, you should both be very proud. Yeah, that's really all I have for now. I gotta keep my lips sealed because I have a lot of opinions to share tomorrow that I'm sure all of you are just pining to hear. But until then, I will see you all tomorrow for the grand finale of the season, as well as the awards ceremony. Yeah, and then maybe a little sneak preview of what's coming next year. We'll see what happens. But thank you guys so much for attending. Thank you to the jurors who were able to attend in person. Always means a lot. But yeah, that's all I have for you tonight. Now you just got to stay on pins and needles until tomorrow. You're muted, Blake, but
What time tomorrow?
I don't know. You two decide the best time in which you can attend.
I don't work tomorrow. I'm off, so it does not matter to me.
I work until 7, but
7:30.
7:30 again?
we can do that again.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
Perfect. 7:30 tomorrow then.
Sweet.
All right, y'all. See you then.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
And in the stream.